smartest guys around are about to break it down like they've won the game a million times.
Well, actually, they didn't really win the game at all.
Survivor know it all. Survivor know it all. Stephen without it down. Got the game all figured out. They know it all.
Yes, that's right. Survivor Know-It-Alls are back again after week number 4 here of Survivor 42. I'm Rob Cesternino, back again with a man who I saw tonight on Twitter referred to as a decent-sized fish. Here he is, Stephen Fishbach.
Wow. Well, that's great. I'm honest. I'm honored. Yeah. I mean, I always think of myself as like an overwhelming amount of fish, like so much fish that it'll last you, weeks.
There's a lot of fish on
those
episode.
fish were huge.
Yeah.
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 And they were, and I was, what I was most impressed about in this whole episode, just how,
what was that, Stephen?
Definitively, Jonathan knew which fish was which. Lindsay comes up and is like, is that a such and such fish? And Jonathan's like, nope, that's a such and such.
It's perfect.
I want to be one of those guys who knows, at what every fish is.
That could be your thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd like that to be a thing, not one thing.
One of your things.
Yeah.
And a fish puzzle too.
Yeah. A lot of fish tonight. Probably an homage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To the fishing
and maybe a fishy, not as clear.
Tough one tonight.
We'll find out. Find out. Okay, here we are, Survivor Know-It-Alls, 2 Goliaths of the Survivor podcast game, back again here with you after the episode to talk
now,
about
don't call me out
happened.
for being a Goliath. Now it's like everyone's going to be looking at me when I go on their podcast.
They already were.
Like,
were. Look.
Yeah.
Trying to take their shots. Anyway, so here we are after the episode to talk about what happened with Swathi, who sort of out of nowhere looked like Tori, right turn.
That was a very fun episode. I mean, it was a fun episode. It was not a very fun. It was a fun episode because it was so much about the social political game. A lot happened very quickly. No advantages involved. It's just a great, it was like a very solid episode of
solid. B+
Survivor. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, like just classic Survivor episode. People are politicking. Someone says the wrong thing. Someone else says the other wrong thing. Someone says the right thing. Someone gets voted out.
Yeah. Survivor 42 trucking along. See, I just want to say before we get too far, I just want to say, look, I do a lot of different podcasts. I have a lot of different podcast co-hosts. I just want to say, Stephen, you are my number one podcast co-host.
I want the montage. I want the full montage of Rob, all of the flashbacks. The flashback button, sometimes they abuse it. Like we didn't need to see a flashback to like last episode of John, Jonathan the Water. Mm-hmm. Like I literally just saw that. That was not so long ago that I've forgotten it. But the way that they do intersperse the flashbacks now, that montage of "You Are My Number One" was very fun. What was the sizzle on the steak of that was the way that they kind of like paused a beat before they did the Tori flashback. So you've got the Romeo flashback, you've got the Drea flashback, and then they're telling Tori, and there's just sort of like an extra 10 seconds, and then they hit these guys know what they're up to.
And poor Roxroy didn't even get a "You're My Number One," and Roxroy is the only one that is saying no, I love Swathi. Keep her forever.
Yeah, stick to the plan.
I'm a never Tori.
Yeah. What do you, Rob? Did they make the right choice tonight?
Yeah, that's a great question. We will talk about it here tonight on the Survivor Know-It-Alls. Let me just tell you what's coming up here in the next couple of days here on Robin's podcast. Tomorrow morning, I will check in with Swathi and hear from Swathi herself about what went wrong over on the Ika tribe for her. Then got a great guest on the recap this week. Once again, Xander Hastings will join me. Got a lot of things to talk to Xander about, of course, that he can talk about what it's like to play in the new era and can shed some light on everything going on with all of these advantages. Plus, your friend and mine, Stephen, Allie Lasher, will join me on the Survivor Feedback Show this week. And Matt Scott will be with me on the Survivor Academy for the patrons only of Rob It's a Podcast. But Stephen, you asked the question, did the tribe make the right decision? And I don't know where you come down on this, but I am very much more in the camp of, I feel like they did make the right call. And my reasoning is that I felt like that with Tori, you had a person who is untrustworthy, somewhat snake-like in the game, someone who is like revealing secrets left and right, and a little bit of an agent of chaos. But her sloppiness, I think, makes her the less dangerous element and sort of like the more known quantity. I think that for Swathi, it was such a surprise to everybody of, oh, we can't trust Swathi. Swathi is the one that is almost got away with this. She's the more dangerous player, the more capable player. And Tori is the one who is more eager to work with us. And I think that they felt like that they got rid of more of the person who was ultimately the bigger threat to them down the line, because they couldn't imagine she was capable of what she was doing.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm a little concerned because I agree with you. I do think that they got rid of the right person. And because I don't actually think Tori was such an agent of chaos. You know, Tori, like even in this episode, just this episode, right? Tori kind of wanted to stick to her originally. You know, Drea came to her and Tori wanted to stick with Drea, right? She wanted to stick with the plans that, you know, that had been proposed to her, that she had agreed to. And it was Swathi who was like consistently invalidating every plan and every alliance that she had, telling everybody about everything. And you know, the only time that we see Tori reveal, now this was a huge misstep, was obviously telling Roxroy about Drea's extra vote, but she only does that like against her better judgment and against her better judgment, because she feels like she's now forced into this position. We get this long testimonial from her about how she is now forced to work with Roxroy, doesn't want to, you know, tries to ingratiate herself to him, obviously fails. But still, like, it was more, and I do think you're right, though, that they know that Tori is a little more transparent to them, and that makes Swathi more dangerous to them. But Swathi was really like undermining every single alliance she had, right? I mean, she was really bouncing around quite a bit. I tracked it. I wrote down because it actually moved very fast. So we saw Drea initially tried to make a girls' alliance with Swathi and Tori, right?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. And Swathi says like she didn't like that idea. She thought Drea was getting too powerful. So Drea wanted to blindside Roxroy. So Swathi decides she wants to blindside Drea with Tori and with Roxroy. Yes.
So Tori, now not wanting to work with Roxroy, nevertheless feels she has no other choice because, according to Swathi, Drea wants to get out Tori, which, you know, was not totally true. So Tori tells Roxroy about the extra vote. Roxroy tells Drea, and Swathi realizes that she's on the outs because of that. So Tori then tells Romeo about that she knows about the foursome of Roxroy. I don't think I'm making things clearer. I mean, I think I'm just like,
we watched the episode. Yeah.
I mean, I just had to write it down for myself. Like it moved so quickly in terms of like the he said, she said of it all.
Yeah. To me,
I'm doing the flashback to the last.
You were flashing back. Yeah. So that I said a couple of weeks ago, I didn't like it when, as soon as Drea walked away, Swathi, says to Tori, "Hey, like we need to take out Drea," which just seemed like so premature. I mean, that didn't need to happen, at that moment. Then we saw where, Swathi is still feeling like, okay, that's the move. We need to take out Drea. And because Drea is also close with Romeo. And I had felt like that, and this was a little bit of just sort of like jumping to conclusions on my part. I thought that Swathi was especially close with Roxroy. We never saw that really on camera. We saw them having a discussion about voting out Zach in the first episode. There's a secret scene where they're talking. And then we also saw that Roxroy would not write down Swathi's name at the going into tribal council. So it seems like that they were particularly close. I don't know if Swathi felt like, hey, I know Roxroy hates Tori and I need to have Tori start to win Roxroy over, but they hadn't lost the challenge. They weren't going to tribal council yet. I just don't know why the wheels were in motion like they were.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is going to turn out to be one of those things where like they knew each other from home or something. You know, it was like one of those alliances that it did seem to be like the subtext to a lot of what was going on, but it was never actually in the episode. You know, Swathi too decides to turn on Drea as soon as Drea targets Roxroy, right? As soon as Drea says, let's vote out Roxroy, Swathi's like, we got to bring in Roxroy to get out Drea. So it did seem like there was like, they were each kind of standing up for the other one in a way that wasn't necessarily merited by what we saw on television. So I do think you're right that there did seem to be some kind of alliance there. And I think you're right. Like, I mean, Swathi was the one who at every point was kind of saying, like, sort of throwing each of her alliances successively under the bus, you know, was the one saying to everybody, you're my number one. You know, it's so interesting because, I mean, Tyson had a bit about this on his Ringer podcast, which it's something that, you know, we've talked about too, but I mean, Tyson said it so well, that you know, it used to be like when I first played Survivor, and certainly, you know, in the dawn of history, when you played Survivor, you could have conversations with people and it wouldn't get back immediately to that person. But now it does. Like, it used to be people would sort of like keep information to themselves. They wouldn't like double check info. Now, like, as soon as someone hears something, they're going to go double check it with the person that you know, and anything you say to someone is very much at risk of getting out to everybody else. And I think that is a change in the game. I don't know why that's happened. Like, I couldn't put my finger on why, but I think, you know, for someone like Swathi, who is trying, like, you used to be able to tell everyone, oh yeah, you're my number one, you're my number, of course. And we've seen, like, you know, in the past few seasons, we've seen 2 separate montages of that same beat, you know, one with Aubrey a couple seasons ago. Where, and I'm sure like they're not the only 2 people who have done that. I'm sure a lot of people have done that. You know, everyone does that. But people are getting caught out for it now.
I don't think Swathi played particularly bad in her time on the island. You know, I think that she had like good instincts and was doing some good things, but I think her major miscalculation was that I don't think that she necessarily recognized that Tori is a bit sloppy. And I don't even think that Tori did a particularly effective job of like saving herself. It was sort of like that Romeo put the pieces together of like, wait, what happened? How did you know that? And then Romeo really started to turn the tide against Swathi. Now, I think that Tori actually is very effective at tribal council. I think that she really did a good job of holding her own. But in terms of like getting saved from being the person going home, I think it had more to do with Romeo and Drea coming together and making this decision of like having to flip a coin, more so than it was Tori making the compelling case to kill off Swathi in the game.
I hear you. I don't totally agree with you because I think Tori was very good this episode at dropping hints, you know, and I think that is something she does decently well. And she, in that conversation with Romeo, I mean, this was more than a hint. She was like, oh yeah, Swathi told me about your 4. You know, she's saying that in order to flip the target onto Swathi. So for Romeo then to be like, wait, why did Swathi tell you about our 4? You know, is not a crazy, you know, that to me seemed like Romeo was taking Tori's bait. Like if I were to like award the like agency in that interaction, I would give that to Tori because she was the one who, she said the thing and Romeo took it. And to be fair, Romeo ran with it. You know, and then I thought Swathi had another good beat later where, I mean, in you know, very similar way, obviously less effective way, when she's talking with Drea and she's like, man, it's really so bad that after Tori tried to blindside you, you're somehow it's come between us. I thought that was very good. Cause like the one piece of indisputable evidence was that Tori had told Roxroy about the extra vote. But I didn't think like that it was just, you know, like messy Tori, like somehow, you know, getting saved by, you know, Romeo here.
I thought nobody was more surprised that the vote got shifted from Tori to Swathi than Tori.
Yeah.
She was like,
I think she was.
I guess that people want to vote out Swathi now. So this is great. And I think that she certainly like went with the flow and was able to like give away all of the goods. And, as a very self-interested player, had no problem throwing Swathi under the bus in the same way she was very quick to throw Zach under the bus when that opportunity came up. But I do think that she is very good at tribal council. And I felt like that Swathi was floundering a bit to bring another fish into it at tribal council. I feel like that, for Swathi, you can see why she's playing the shot in the dark in that spot.
Well, I got the sense that she knew she was going home. Like as a viewer going into it, I'm like, I don't know where they're going. And then when Swathi starts, unleashing, not unleashing, but she starts like really like giving the hard sell. I thought, oh, she's the one. She must know that she's the one who's likely being eliminated. And that's why she's like doing the aggressive pitch, because it's easy to, when you are not the one, and you're right that Tori played it very cool, and it's actually hard at tribal council to play it cool, but it's easier when you're not the one who's the default target. At
tribal council, Romeo turns to Drea and says, "Are you going to play your extra vote tonight?" Yeah. Why can you sort of speculate why play the extra vote in that spot?
I mean, I guess they knew Roxroy was voting. Maybe they thought that there was, it's totally not clear. Like maybe they thought the shot in the dark, throw an extra vote on, on Tori, just so that it's not but even then, if they know that, I don't know. I mean, if
doesn't
they
make a ton of sense.
Swathi's voting for Tori, it didn't make, it was more like, this is chaotic. Like, well, you're going to use your magic power. And then maybe he was just trying to flush out the extra vote too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Stephen, what's the vibe on the know-it-alls tonight?
I feel like we're not connecting. I do feel like, we haven't really hit, we haven't really hit that. We need to eliminate, someone to kind of hopefully go back and maybe be more cohesive.
Like from the chat?
Yeah, no, from the podcast.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can I do a quick fact check here on the know-it-alls? I mean, this is sort of like the first word in Survivor podcasting. Did you happen to catch Swathi's final words tonight?
I guess so. I didn't think. I did see the episode.
Turn off the episode after.
I don't. I know that in the episode she talked about all the growth that she was going to have. Subject very near and dear to my heart. But I don't remember exactly what she said, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Okay. Well, good. So in her final words, she talked about how, she was just getting her feet under her.
Oh, right. All-Stars. Oh, right. Boston Rob. Yeah.
Yes. And Swathi said this.
Boston Rob was fourth out his first season. So who knows? Maybe you'll see me winning a season of All-Stars in the future.
So Swathi makes a great point. Boston Rob was fourth out in his first season. So maybe you'll see her coming back and winning an all-star season of Survivor, presumably just like Boston Rob.
Classic winner of an all-star season.
Classic fourth person out of a season.
Yeah. I mean, I always think of Survivor 22 as an all-star season.
Yeah. And also, Russell was there.
They're all stars in their own way. Matt Elrod is a star.
To be fair, Boston Rob was on the fourth season of Survivor the first time he played.
Yeah.
But he was voted out.
Not fourth out.
Not fourth out. Yeah. I believe he was voted out seventh. He made it famously to the merge, but not to the jury. Now, Stephen, I did say to myself, I did get voted out fourth once. You don't think that maybe she's getting maybe the wires crossed, perhaps, but let's go to the Twitter tonight.
Wow.
We see. Let's go to live to a tweet. James, winner of the Amazing Race, said Boston Rob wasn't fourth out on his first season. He was seventh and made the merge. What is Swathi talking about? Swathi said, "Wrong, Rob. I meant Rob C. Sorry."
So you did come back and win an all-star season, or you will come back. No, hold on. Canon, the only canon, right? We always say the only thing that's canon is when Jeff says it or it's on parchment. Jeff said you will never win. Smartest player to never win the game.
Yeah.
Jeff has said you will never win.
I also wasn't voted out fourth in my first season and came back and won All-Star season.
Yeah.
But look, was Swathi even alive then?
She actually probably.
Yeah.
No, I think the answer
In
is no.
fairness to Swathi,
Yeah.
it all gets jumbled around.
Maybe just like, was she just alive? She's 20 years old. Like she's maybe like just at the very.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe like that. Maybe like a Survivor was on
All right,
in the delivery room.
Yes. Okay. And then I'm being told to we have a tweet from Brian Corden. Your friend of mine, Boston Rob was actually 7th out in his first season. I know this because I was also 7th out, and I'm a giant nerd. Swathi says I meant the other Rob. Sorry.
Wow. There's a lot of misinformation here. We got the wrong place out, wrong.
Not
Rob,
the only
not a
survivor with
winner of an All-Star
misinformation.
season.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe there's another. Is there a
Who knew?
third? Is there another Rob?
Maybe Rob from Survivor Thailand. Maybe.
Robaba.
Yes. I'm just happy to be once again, confused for Boston Rob. I mean, it hasn't happened in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there you go. All right, Stephen. Let's check
maybe
back
they
in.
asked her to change it. Maybe she said Rob Cesternino, and they were like, "No one knows who that is."
Nobody
Boston
knows.
Rob.
Yeah, it's a better story. Better story
exactly.
to go with Boston Rob. People know him,
Yeah.
Stephen. But let's check back in with our friends over at the Vati tribe. We talked so much last week, also during all the podcasts this past week of like, what was the fallout going to be from Vati, and we had that great scene to open things up. I felt like that Daniel did not do a great job once they came back to the camp.
Yeah, I mean, I want to defend it. So you tell me why Daniel didn't do a good job, and I will then try to refute your points.
Sure. That my first reaction would be that when he comes back and says, "Hey, a lot of things happen," I look forward to clearing it up tomorrow morning or sometime, thereafter in the morning. I think that is a bad, they say in a happy marriage, you never go to sleep angry.
Right.
I thought that was a mistake to sort of punt that conversation, that tough conversation until the light of day. I feel like instead of letting people fester on it all night long, why not try to, and you had the whole ride back from tribal council, why not start getting out in front and trying to do some cleanup?
Yeah. I think like abstractly in a vacuum, the chess piece is Survivor. Yes, you're right. Like, but I have been, at a chaotic tribal council where everything went wrong. And, people I thought were my allies were now my enemies. People I thought were my enemies were still my enemies. And you come back and like your head is spinning, and this was, my like 13th tribal council or whatever. I cannot imagine, this guy, his first ever tribal council on Survivor, massive Survivor fan. It turns into like a historic thing, 2 people not voting, tie vote, conversation with like 4 people at risk, but only 1, 2 of them can vote, like craziness, right? Like never before seen situation, impossible to prepare for. Your allies are like, you're on your own there, buddy. I like your head, you're totally at a loss. Your desired outcome is not the outcome. Now you think everyone is furious at you. I can see like, what? This is chaotic. I need to sleep on this. I need to figure out what I think I should do. Like rather than, run off and start like grabbing people. It's freaking pitch black out. We're all exhausted. Everyone's mad at me. Like, let's like take a beat, try to fix this in the morning. Like, I don't think that's a crazy response. I mean, I agree with you, like perfect scenario. You want to get ahead of it. You want to like grab people who are mad so that they don't go to bed mad, so that they don't like wake up. I mean, obviously we saw Hai get ahead of it. Hai takes Mike aside. And then suddenly they're best friends, and like the rest of the episode, they're like hugging and kissing. Like what a bond, what a
wild ride. It was a wild ride
out of nowhere.
But so because Daniel sort of defers on talking about it, then he ends up now he is going to be on the defense, where we see Chanel, who comes out a little more like on the attack on offense, and is able to say like, hey, why are you blaming this on me? I didn't even vote. How can I blindside you? What are you talking
I don't
about?
necessarily, and in general, like I hear you, and I do think you like, but like you don't necessarily want the first word in a Survivor conversation. You want the last word in the Survivor conversation. You know, the person who says like, "Here's my thing," like, you know, it's not always the person who gets their way. You know, typically it's the person who kind of swoops in from the side and says, "No, here's how it is." Who actually is the most influential one. And again, like I do think coming out of these like very contentious tribal councils, there's a lot to be said for fixing it that night, and at least establishing peace. But I also think the real work is done the next day. And again, like this is, you know, their first tribal council, you know, this craziness. And Daniel was at the center of it. And I really do, if you're not in a place as like a human being to like mend, you know, 4 relationships with 4 people who are furious at you and who, you know, on whom your entire dream rests, you know,
but
take a snooze.
Well, I have to say that going back to that tribal council, that Hai and Lydia like came away from that tribal council. You know, the last thing we saw was, okay, you promise you're not going to hold it against me. Okay, we're good. You know, he made those bonds at the tribal council. I felt like that at the very least, like I feel like that he could have come back and said, hey, like, Hai and Lydia, can I talk to you? Like he had an opportunity, and what ends up happening? Hai ends up bonding with Mike that night. And then, and I don't really recall too many people saying that this was a likely possibility, that of the 3 people who weren't with Hai and Lydia, that Mike was going to be the big beneficiary from this.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this before, like,
you know,
what?
Now, Mike doesn't have a vote. So hypothetically, if Daniel and Chanel ever got back on the same page, we could be headed to another 2-2 vote, but probably unlikely.
When we were doing the 49 Laws of Survivor, we did talk about how, you know, you're more likely to trust your enemy than you are like to like trust a, you know, a disloyal friend. And I think that's ultimately where Hai and Mike are going to bond, right? Like there was no question that they were on the opposite sides of the vote. And so for them that it's easier for them to reconcile than both of them feeling betrayed by Daniel in that moment. I agree with you. Like if you had to pull one person, you know, maybe he should have like fully pivoted to Hai and Lydia and done some damage control there before he could, you know, before that could further devolve. But just because Hai and Lydia said like, I promise I'm not mad at you, that does not mean that they were not furious at him.
Yeah. But I just felt like that it seemed like very, you know, passive to sort of like, well, I'm just going to let that sit until tomorrow. I feel like that the time was like pretty, it was that time to, you know, start to clean that up a little bit. And then I also felt like that Daniel then had some not so great back and forths with Mike, where Mike just wanted Daniel to admit what was going on, and basically Daniel admits to telling lots of lies to Mike in the game. I kind of feel like that.
Did Mike really want him to just like admit? I mean, what is the correct move? Because like, if you say I didn't lie to you, you know that's BS. If you say I lied to you, you're admitting you lied to me. Like there's no right answer there. Like Mike is mad at Daniel. Like what do you think is the correct move?
What did he lie about? It was like, Mike, we were trying to vote with you. You didn't have a vote, Mike. Like what you want us to do? I didn't want to go to Rocks. Yeah, I told Chanel about your. I didn't tell Hai and Lydia about. I guess so, but you know, I thought Chanel was with me. I made a mistake, but I feel like you could say that's a mistake more than a lie.
Yeah. You're right. He should have apologized. You're right. He should have narrowed it rather than broadening it. Instead,
he went to that tribal council trying to keep Mike and Jenny.
Yeah, I mean, he said the way he positioned it was. Chanel was my number one. I was 100% truthful to her, and therefore I had to lie to you a lie. That was not great. Like he definitely should have said to Mike, like, you know what, I did tell. You're right. He should have said I apologize. He should have like narrowed it to like one transgression. My only transgression with you was the the idol. I knew you didn't have a vote. It was important for Chanel to have all the context before going into this crazy tribal council. And you know, I totally screwed up. You're absolutely right. I just wanted us all to be on the same page, and that was my bad. Instead, it becomes like I've lied to you 1,000 times because like Chanel was my better ally. So I think you're right. Like in that, maybe if you can take something from that, it's like try to focus the transgression. Don't if you make it big and broad and like I have lied, you're not my number one.
Yeah,
it's hard to come back from that. But if you're like this discrete thing was a mistake of mine, and I'm
I made a
so
mistake.
sorry.
I didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Messed
a lot.
up.
It was a mistake. I made a
Yeah,
mistake.
exactly.
And who amongst us hasn't made a mistake?
I feel like actually Mike might be sympathetic to that. I feel like he's such a decent guy, and he such a
I feel
he's a straight
so dumb.
shooter.
I feel so stupid. I made a mistake. How could and now Jenny's not here because of this. This is all, I feel like that he could have done a better job there. And Mike becomes the big beneficiary, and we'll see where it goes from there. I want to ask you also about what's going on over at the Taku tribe. And there was, of course, more fawning over the amazing Jonathan.
That was such that was like that attempt at like drama was like the thinnest fight I think I've ever seen on Survivor. I mean, I think maybe
about Jonathan talking about the solid four.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like every single tribe in history has been like, we're tough together. We're so strong as a tribe. Like that's literally every tribe at these challenges is like, we're strong. No one can beat us. Like nobody thinks anything of that. Like them trying to turn that into a narrative of like, dissension on that tribe is just like evidence of how solid that tribe is. There's no there.
Yeah. What about Jeff's premise of a question of, he talks about how, Taku tribe won again. And it's like, Ika, is there anything that you could learn about what a cohesive unit this is from watching them, how well they work together? Because obviously their biggest asset is their amazing teamwork and chemistry.
Right. Exactly. I thought Tori handled that really well. I mean, they've got Goliath, but like maybe they also have some teamwork thing that we're missing. That was a very good answer.
Yeah, they have a Goliath and a bunch of Davids.
Yeah, that's right. That's the secret.
That's the secret. Davids and a Goliath working together to make it work. Yeah, and they got back to camp.
For the what are they called? What was that alliance? Mike and Nick
Jubeni, the rock stars,
right? Yeah.
Okay, and then back at camp, talk about how like Jonathan saying they had a solid four. How much of a faux pas was this?
I think no faux pas. It was no like a trivial faux pas. This is like the most venal of venal sins. I mean, there's no I mean, again, like everybody says this, like every tribe always says this, like, we're strong. Like no one takes it seriously. No one is, them being mad at Jonathan. Like really, like that is not drama. There's no there, right? Or do you think otherwise?
No, I don't know if there's any there. I'm just wondering, the show is really calling so much attention to Jonathan. Right. Now, I do that for Jonathan's sake. I like what he's doing in terms of trying to really like make the case of him being a shield, where that I feel like that, in the past, this archetype of player who is sort of like dominant in the challenges and providing for the tribe, I feel like that Ozzy has sort of been like, you shouldn't vote me out because that's messed up. Like I'm doing a lot of good things for you. Whereas I feel like that Jonathan is like very much like outwardly talking about how like you need me, like I will protect you in the post-merge game. Don't get rid of me.
Right. He's talking right. Exactly. Like, and I actually think nowadays that's a very compelling. Because Jonathan's not going to hide, and I think that a lot of the more I think once you get to the merge, there's always a sense of like, oh yeah, we'll get Jonathan later. I mean, I certainly experienced that in Cambodia. Like everyone was like, we'll figure out the Joe thing later, and they did. But I do think that because a player like Jonathan is so obviously physically dominant, that there's never a sense that he's going to slip through the cracks. That said, he's really physically dominant. And I think, it may be that if he wins a couple individual immunities and then loses one, the people would take that opportunity to vote him out. And that would be a smart thing to do.
It's just been interesting that there's been so much attention called to him in the pre-merge game. It's hard for me to think of another player that has been like spotlighted so much in the pre-merge. And it'll be interesting to see, where this story goes.
Yeah. I mean, Shan was spotlighted quite a bit in the pre-merge.
But I mean, that in a different way, not necessarily like that the Jeff like asking the other players, what do you think about Shan's amazing performance?
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Do you think that was like unfair of Jeff last week to say, Jonathan? I mean, in Jeff's defense of that, I think maybe in Dalton's Q&A was that like it was they all saw it. It wasn't and it would be maybe not right for him not to call it out.
I mean, I think it would have been fine for him to not call it out. I mean, it just gets like at that point, it's like, but then like have a robot host the show. It doesn't bother me, but it's interesting to me that we're seeing it so much in the show. So I'm wondering what the story is. If I had to guess, I think that probably, Jonathan gets 10th place, is a huge fan favorite, and comes back for Survivor 43.
Is that, so you think they're laying the, I mean, it's like, I can see that. You think they're laying that's what I was going to ask you, if you thought they were doing, if they were laying the groundwork for like his immediate return.
I mean, look, I don't know at what point they're going to return players from the new era, but I feel like that he is certainly getting a spotlight.
I mean, the people who, it did feel like the show was highlight. I remember like when Malcolm was on and like they really highlight, and obviously Malcolm was, a huge player in a big, Survivor character out of the gate, but, and same with Russell, obviously like season 19 was all about Russell. And it really did feel like it was leading into season 20. Right. And the same, like Malcolm immediately went back on Karamoan right after having been on Philippines. It's totally possible. I mean, you're right that it does have that sort of sense of like, they are building this myth around Jonathan. But he's also like so good. I mean, I've said before that like it's a relatively weak cast.
Yes.
And Jonathan is would be exceptional in a normal cast. So it's he's just so head and shoulders above the rest of the players in these challenges that how is this not a story? How is this not affecting? I mean, is he more dominant than Joe? Like, I don't know. I mean, at the tribe challenges, Joe was unbeatable. So I don't know if he's more dominant than Joe.
Yeah, I just think that compared to the rest of this field, he's just such a difference maker. I mean, I feel like that this tribe is like blowing the other tribes out of the water, and sometimes literally, and then like if he was not in the tribe, his tribe would be in last place by a mile.
So you're going to call him the difference maker?
I mean, how could you not?
He's the difference maker.
He's the difference maker, not that catchy of a nickname. But the one other thing I wanted to add with like when he said like, oh, we're such a tight four, that Marianne was like, can you believe this guy? This guy just blurts out whatever pops into his head.
But don't you think that they're just like really like trying to be like they gotta fill airtime. They got to show us the dynamics on that tribe.
Yeah, I just thought, like, of all people, for Marianne to be like, does this man not have any impulse control? Can he not control his outbursts? Stephen, why don't we check in with some of the questions from the listeners of the Survivor Know-It-Alls podcast? Of course, we let people write in questions. drophiswebsite.com/S42 questions. And the number one Jonathan fan is here, who says, how would your general strategy change if you realize you were a Greek god and could never lose a challenge? How do you get that target off your back?
That's I mean, that is what Jonathan is trying to do, right? He's saying, well, he's coming at it from a few ways. He's saying, well, I'm going to have to, emphasize what excuse me, guys.
You shouldn't have said it. Yeah.
No,
well, yeah, go ahead.
He's trying to say, he wants to be of service to people. He wants to be, he's a meat shield. It is like, there's no really good way to do it. What do you think, Rob? You're a Greek god.
Yes. Well, thank you. The Greek god of podcasting. I would say, like at some point, do you have to flip it around where like, do you have to like pull like the Tyson Blood versus Water, where it's like, okay, is it a true like Greek tragedy where he like loses his powers? What made him strong ultimately? Like, is he hobbled at some point? Like, does he get his? Because I think that it behooves him to get his numbers to the merge, because I feel like that in a situation where, he goes to a merge and, it's like, let's say like him and Omer are the only two people left from his group and they go into the merge. He's such a target there, but I feel like there's probably safety in numbers. So I think he needs to deliver his people to the merge. But at that point, like, I wonder if the move is to sort of like try to hide and not perform particularly well at the first few immunity challenges. And then when you sort of like see daylight, try to, just go all out for like, from like the final 8 on.
Yeah, I mean, it's so risky because he's already been established in people's minds as like the big threat. So even if he loses an immunity challenge, no one's going to be like, that guy's not a physical threat anymore. Like no one's going to be like, oh, he fell off the balance beam. He dropped the ball.
Yeah.
He fell off the balance beam. But wow, that guy sucks. He's always going to be this dominant physical force. So I actually think you sort of have to like just gun it and hope it works.
Is there
out.
anything to maybe like when you get to the merge that the challenges now that they shift up so much where the challenges are so physical in the pre-merge, and then it's like stand in this place and hold the ball, where could he sort of like pivot once he gets to the merge? Like, oh, I stink at these challenges. I wish it was the pre-merge where the challenges that I was good at. Now, these are all the challenges I'm bad at. Like, I really, need you all to be winning immunity for me.
Yeah, the problem is the late merge challenges are, like those are once more somewhat physical.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't think that's a great move. I think you really just have to. I think his best bet is to win out and then hope that in the moments when he doesn't have it, like something breaks his way, whether, it's
26-day season, that's probably more possible than it is in a 39-day season.
Truly.
Yeah. Okay. And he also has the opportunity to win rewards and continue to refuel and, like make a real run. Okay.
He just needs like it not to be him, right? Every time that there's a vote, he needs that there to be someone else who's a bigger target at that to vote. And that's not like, I mean, there's ways to do that. And if he can kind of say like, I'm a big meat shield and get enough, like you're saying, you can get enough people on his side, then yeah, I don't think it's inconceivable for him to last a couple votes. He just needs to win most of the post merge immunity challenges. Okay. All right. Sam wants to know, who is the bossiest person you guys have ever lived on the island with? That's a fun question. Us reminiscing about our experiences. Has that ever been a good trait with the right group of people?
Okay, well, I can tell you that the bossiest person I played with was.
Can I guess?
Go for it.
Rudy? No.
So I would not. I probably spent more time with Rudy outside of the game. Yeah. No, Rudy was not particularly bossy.
Oh, Roger, obviously Roger.
Okay. Yeah, Roger was very bossy in Survivor: The Amazon. I also was out there with Boston Rob, also who, but if you're looking for sort of like the best case scenario for bossy Survivor player, I think that's probably it.
Yeah. When go out fourth, be bossy, and win an all-star season.
yeah, that's right. So, Stephen, what about for you?
I honestly think that, obviously Carolina Eastwood, very, very bossy, a lot of strong opinions about cleaning up the outdoors. Joe Anglim, very bossy, not a part of his personality that got highlighted on the show because only the beautiful parts did, but he would always like tell people what to do or like when they could eat or what they could eat or like, he really thought like this was a 23-year-old and we were like a bunch of 30 somethings and older. And he would really had no hesitation to really sort of lay the groundwork and the rules of camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about Andrew Savage?
Savage, less bossy than you would think, actually, like a great guy. Not my best friend out there, but not particularly bossy. He didn't like order people around at all. In fact, if anything, he was like very encouraging, tried to like do team building stuff. I would not at all call him bossy.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Great question. Okay. 10 fish, bluefish, redfish, fishback wants to know, with 10 fish, the tribe before surely would have had some extra. How do you store all that extra fish on the island? Stephen, have you ever been part of a feast or reward where that basically there is more food than you can eat at one sitting on Survivor?
I have the merge. I mean, well, the merge feasts are typically more than you can eat. They will not always let you take the rest of it. And Survivor Cambodia, they did, but that was like dried goods. Fish is tough. I mean, you theoretically you could smoke it. I think there are ways of like burying fish actually that can keep help it keep.
Gross.
I've seen on like Alone. But yeah. They said if you want to learn how to be a TV survivalist, Alone is the place to do it. But I don't know. Like I think
what's the move? Can you make like a soup, like a stew?
It's not
stew?
a day later, the fish stew is not going to be like.
Well, I mean, but like at least you can have like a second meal.
Yeah, I guess you keep the water boiling. I mean, isn't that going to go? The flies are going to just descend on that, right?
All right. I guess that's all you can eat.
Yeah, I think you got to go for it. I mean, I guess you could smoke it. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. How about Susie?
Susie wants to know: do other tribe members actually recall members from other tribes when Jeff announces who went home from previous tribal council?
Like, do you think that the other players don't remember the person that was there yesterday? Yeah, I think they remember.
You also have nothing else to talk about. Like that's like the number one source of speculation. You're like lying there at night, like I'll bet it's the tall guy. I'll bet the tall guy got it. And I could tell nobody likes the tall guy. Everybody like that's all you talk about.
I think they remember Jenny. Yeah, I think so. Okay. Yeah. How about from Paige? Hey guys, I am absolutely shocked at how much the shot in the dark has been played correctly thus far.
Yeah.
Are the players in the season just not good liars, or do you all think the rules were explained better compared to season 41? So, Stephen, this goes back to something I talked about with Gabby in the first podcast of the season. By the way, I did end up cashing in on my bet of over 2.5 shots in the dark played in this season of Survivor tonight. So I will be expecting that Notes app apology from Gabby Pascuzzi any moment now. That being said, Stephen, do you think, is there anything that they particularly might have said to the survivors, you think, that make the shot in the dark sound more appealing, or there just were less blindsides going on?
Yeah, we talked about this too. I do think that maybe they kind of laid the groundwork of like, this is your like secret immunity idol that you can, pull out at the last minute if you think it could be you. And it's possible that people are just getting a little bit. I mean, the other thing, as people have noted, is that a lot of the tribal councils we saw last season were the Shan Ricard, from pre-merge, were the Shan Ricard tribal councils, where they just completely blindsided people who thought that they were their best friends. Like those people did not see it coming. Yeah. And here that does not seem to be the case. It seems people have a little bit more clarity that it really could be or likely will be them. Maybe because we're also seeing more of the tribes go to tribal council. We're seeing like everybody's a little bit shakier. Nobody really has their sea legs. But the big loser for tonight was the shot in the dark. I mean, really, the shot in the dark needs its hero moment, Rob. Yeah,
the shot in the dark does need something to bring it back. I told you that about my brother's idea of, I mean, could you imagine how exciting it would be right now if it was a 1 and 2 shot in the shot in the dark? I mean, people would be racing to go play it. But yeah, I wonder, is 1 and 6 too low for the shot in the dark?
I think they need to crank it up to 1 and 5.
1 and 5. Okay.
At least 1 and 5. Like that's like still low odds, but like maybe. I mean, to be fair, we haven't even seen.
But it's a dice. It's a dice.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I didn't think about the fact that they have to roll it.
They don't so much roll it; they just drop it in the thing. Yeah, like a Mento in a bottle of Diet Coke.
That's how dice are rolled, like Mentos.
Okay. Stephen, what does Owen have to say?
Owen Hoke wants to know: do you think that it was smart for Roxroy to stick with his vote of Tori? It could either be seen as him being loyal to Swathi in the original plan, or that he isn't being cohesive with the rest of the tribe.
Well, Roxroy is a really fun character to have on the show because, Roxroy likes what he likes and is like going to, want what he wants. And he did not want Swathi to go, and he wasn't going to change his vote.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any repercussion there?
But it's not a good move, right? If you know that Tori, or maybe he knew about the shot in the dark and what happens in that scenario, right? Maybe he's concerned that, oh shoot, it could be me. I know that I've heard that Drea was going to make a move on me. If Swathi plays her shot in the dark, that means she doesn't get a vote. What if it hits? Then and
Yeah,
everyone's
I mean,
voting
I think
for Swathi.
I think it'd still be Tori.
But we think that from like, the comfort of our homes, from our comfort of our child's playrooms. But do you, I mean, if you're Roxroy and you know that, there was a move made against you at one point, which maybe Roxroy knows.
I do think that you probably hit on it, where it's the shot in the dark contingency of like, I think that's how he'll sell it to Tori. I think he did not want to write down Swathi's name. That I do think that they had sort of like a father-daughter type relationship out there. So I think that he was very kind talking about Swathi at that tribal council.
Right. And it seemed like he knew that she was going, but wanted to kind of like give her like a big moment.
Yes, I did. That was the final straw, though, about Swathi's definitely going home. Yeah, no chance.
Nobody
anymore.
eulogizes you when you're just going to be there the next day.
No chance anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And how about John, Eric, Robin, Stevie? How many people have you each told you're my number one on Survivor?
So many. So many.
Yeah, not enough for me.
Really? You didn't say it to people?
Probably, probably not enough. Like I feel like that, in hindsight, like I feel like one of the things I feel like I could have done better in Survivor of the Amazon was really and I felt like I did have this with Matthew, but I really needed to drill it home with him that, him and I we're the first Stephen and JT.
You should have said that.
Yeah, exactly. I should have said that. We're inventing the Stephen and JT.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that, he felt like that he could freelance on his own.
I feel like you were like Mr. Everyone is your number one. You had Butch, you had Matthew, no?
I don't know. Maybe Matthew more towards it. Like I think I had to settle down at the end. Like I felt like, okay, my fate is sealed at this point. Matt, it's you and me. It's you and me, buddy. And I think that he felt like that maybe he had more options at that point, which in fairness, he did not. Yeah. Okay. So Steven, anything else about tonight's episode?
Let's see. Do we hit all the bases? I think we did hit all the bases. We talked about fish, most importantly. We talked about the 3 tribes. We talked about, the person who's voted out. Don't want to name them. Don't want to spoil. I can't really think that was all the stuff.
Okay. All right.
Anything
well,
else?
it's Survivor 40. Yes, Survivor 42. I know that people are probably going to be very upset about the. Do you know about the business with the potato?
I know that people are upset about the preview for the season or episode 1, right? They have like scenes to come, and then a lot of those things have really spoiled. I guess if you know what's in that trailer,
very astute viewers, right?
What is the potato idol though? I saw people talking about that. I missed that.
I mean, the third idol clue, which is mentioned, the Ika tribe idol, is because the third idol clue is red in the this season on Survivor, and because that third idol clue has not yet been found. It spoke to that Swathi was going to probably be the person who's going home,
and because Tori says that. So here's a lot of shows do the Challenge does this, right, where they'll also have like scenes, and if someone was in the preview or someone's in that like little montage that they're not going home that episode. It's weird to do it with someone who is the decoy boot twice, who's already been the.
And maybe it'll turn out that lo and behold.
Oh, and Marianne was in one.
I mean, but why not show Mike, who in that very episode is going to find find the idol, right?
Yeah,
or in the second episode. Either way, it's bizarre. I mean, it was in the season 41 preview of what's to come. So that clip's been out there for a while. It's wild that we're going to be 5 episodes in and we still haven't gotten to unearthing that third idol clue.
But I think I think they correctly assume that most people don't pay attention
Yes,
to that. But that said, like,
99.5% of the audience is not paying. I might be underestimating. I might be underselling the amount.
Yeah, how
of
much
people
of the audience
are oblivious to that type of stuff. But
like,
what are you gonna do?
In fact, like if so, like the decoy boots were Tori, Marianne, and there was probably no
Lydia?
scene with Lydia, was there? So
Mhm.
yeah, it's weird to like use the three people to have scenes of three of the decoy boots in the episodes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a strange choice, but I did that. That's not.
Yeah. Okay. I think I can assure you we are thinking about it way more than anybody was who was putting the promo together.
Really? You don't think they're like, maybe we shouldn't spoil like this person not going home?
I mean, there's been many things over the years of shots of people with beards and stuff like that. Like, what are you gonna do? All right,
Yeah,
Stephen. All we can do is move on to what's to come, and it's gonna be a great week here on Robert's podcast. Of course, make sure you subscribed because we've got our exit interview coming up with Swathi. Of course, then I will be talking with a man who knows a thing or two about saying the secret phrases. That would be Xander Hastings on the episode recap coming up on Thursday. Allie Lasher will join me on the Survivor Feedback Show. That's early access and ad-free for the patrons of Rob's podcast. And then for the patrons, I will also be back with the Survivor Academy, talking to the future Survivor players of the world as we take a look at things we learned here in episode number 4 of Survivor. And of course, on the Survivor podcast feed, we've got the rest of the Survivor lineup. Mari Forth is going to be on with Mike and Liana on the B&B. Why Blank Lost. Phil Ferguson joins Shannon Gus on Survivor Global. Taryn will be back with the Stock Watch with Chantel Francis. And of course, check out Bryce and Wendell on the Purple Pants Podcast Survivor News Edition, all in our Survivor podcast feed at robswebsite.com/Survivor feed.
Well, hey, how's the Academy going? I imagine it like Hogwarts. Yeah,
it's a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Like,
incredibly like mysterious teachers teaching you like the esoteric arts.
Yes, we get to talk about a lot of things because it's a patron-only podcast. I can really let my hair down a little bit, Stephen.
Who's the Professor Snape of the Survivor Academy?
I can't say.
It's a secret.
Okay, it's a secret. Yeah, that's one of the secrets. Stephen, have you checked out Is It Cake over on Netflix?
No, I really want to.
Okay. Yeah, you check it out. Of course, I got to watch it this week on the Nothing But Netflix podcast, where the great Chappelle and I every week watch something from Netflix. Maggie Morgan joined us to talk about Is It Cake on the most recent Nothing But Netflix.
Wow. Was it?
How about a fish that you don't need to cut into it? Is it cake or is it a real fish?
Oh God, gross. That would have been a real twist. That would have been a real twist tonight. They go to eat their fish and they're like a bunch of 10 cakes.
Stephen, this weekend, WrestleMania is going to be kicking off. The 2-night extravaganza is coming to Peacock. Of course, get ready for this weekend's WrestleMania with the wrestling wrap up as Matt and Mari had a WrestleMania 38 preview with the host of the Wrestling Wind Down podcast. So check that out over in the Wrestling Wrap Up feed or in the Reality TV Wrap Ups feed or at robinswebsite.com.
Are you a big wrestling fan?
I have been at different points in my life.
Like now, so at different, like at multiple stages. So not all.
Yeah, I've been in and out. I've been in and out. Yeah.
Who's your favorite wrestler?
I like Shawn Michaels. That's always been my guy. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know who that is?
Yeah, I mean, that was my era. I used to watch. I loved Macho Man. Really. I was a big fan of the Macho Man.
Yeah, yeah.
The
You
elbow
love
off
all
the
the
top
savages.
ropes.
Yeah,
yeah. Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Of course, Temptation Island.
God, you're so quick.
Temptation Island is back also, and so check out the latest episode of Temptation Island as Kirsten and Maggie are back to talk about another episode of Temptation Island, also on Peacock. Check that out and more in our reality TV RHAP-ups feed and much more. Plus, everything else. When you become a patron of Robin's Podcast, of course, you get to support all of the great Robin's Podcast shows. Of course, pro tip, wait one more day till it's April 1st. So you don't get billed for the month of March. Of course, get everything in our patron podcast feed, including the Survivor Academy, the Patron 5 for 5. I was on for 4+ hours on our monthly patron cast last night. Plus, we make it easy for you to watch Big Brother Canada, Australian Survivor, and of course, get access to our patron community on Facebook and Discord. Much more at robinswebsite.com/patron. And then, of course, make sure you subscribe to Robin's Podcast, robinswebsite.com/subscribe. Go to that link. You could subscribe to Robin's Podcast, reality TV wrap-ups, and all of our podcast feeds, all in one convenient place at robinswebsite.com/subscribe. Okay? Stephen, what's coming up for you?
You all say this. I feel like you're putting me on blast. You know, it's like your life is so. You're saying like the subtext is, Stephen, your life is so empty, isn't it?
I mean, basically. I mean,
yeah.
That is,
no, it's just just working away. It's great. It's like working, baby. Wife.
living the dream.
Living the dream is great. It really is. Things are good. We're getting our house painted. That's exciting.
Yes.
Getting bookshelves installed in a room so that it's going to be like a library.
What have you been doing with your books without the shelves?
Well, there's another room with bookshelves. It'll be another library.
Okay.
2 libraries.
Right. 2 libraries.
Yeah.
Wow.
The fishy, I think, goes to Romeo. So I think that, well, first of all, this is what we did not talk about. I knew there was something we didn't talk about. Romeo is the one guy who nobody is targeting on that tribe. Everybody's name is coming up all the time. Romeo's in all the conversations.
He's doing so good.
Nobody wants Romeo out. I do think in that conversation with Tori and Romeo, like I think Tori did, I think in that one instance, I do want to give Tori the agency for like having kind of dropped the hint that Romeo ran with, but he then ran with it. He put all the pieces together. He assembled the vote. Probably he seemed like the prime mover again in the vote against Swathi, in terms of we shouldn't trust her. She's playing too hard. We thought she was this young innocent college student, and in fact she's like the one who's scrambling around, like creating chaos here.
And also Swathi, I think, was even though Swathi said to Romeo, you're my number one, based on what we've seen, Swathi was the person that Romeo like had the least connection with.
Yeah,
even
right.
Tori leapfrogged Swathi.
Yeah, I mean I mean we think that he was right. We would both agree that like Swathi probably was creating more chaos on that tribe than Tori was, and it was a good move. He pulled it off, and nobody is targeting him. So Romeo for sure.
Okay, all right, Stephen, great job once again. Thank you all so much for joining us here for Survivor Know-It-Alls. It'll be a busy Thursday talking Survivor. I hope you come back for more. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.